Hello and welcome to Longship Gaming. Secrets of Power Set 6 for Star Wars Unlimited is out, and that means we can update our Twin Suns staple list. Lots of fun stuff in this set to add to new or existing Twin Suns decks. And in this video, I'm going to go over the ones I picked that I think are going to be mainstays in the format going forward. Secrets of Power is a fun set. Official, Spies, and Plots, oh my. I mean, it's not just those things. There are lots of good Rebels in the set to enhance older Rebels decks. Official turns out to be a really interesting inclusion as an overall keyword, or sorry, trait for this set. By my count, there's 125 of them now, which it gives you a wealth of opportunity or a wealth of choice when it comes to making official decks. At the end of the video, I'll show two new deck ideas, one that leans heavily into official as a trait. So in Secrets of Power, we got, of course, a ton more leaders, but this time around, no rare bases. So especially in Limited, it certainly made deck construction easier, and you don't have to worry about opening those. Let's be honest, nobody likes to necessarily open these rare bases more than once. It's especially a bit of a drag when it comes to any kind of draft format to have them in the slot, in the rare slot. It's not a lot of fun. But in this particular case, you know, unlike the previous set with Legends of the Force, you don't have any new bases that are Force enabled. And there's just generic 30 health bases, like going back to the first set, just of course without any rares. So we're going to go over what's new for the staples list, and as I said at the end, I'm going to show a couple of decks that I made that leverage a bunch of the new cards and some older cards for what I consider to be some pretty fun brews. So just as a way of introduction, I do in these videos, what are color staples? Well, it's a list of cards that fit into pretty much any deck of the aspects that you're playing. Most will have an immediate effect when played or are otherwise powerful in the Twin Suns format. It's a good starting core to a deck that can be modified based on your collection or deck synergies. And I will provide in the description a link to the Google Doc that everybody can have a look at, where I break down by aspects and by combination of aspects what cards you should be looking for in each set if you want to go down the road of, especially now that we're 6 sets in and facing rotation by set 7 for constructed. There are a lot of earlier cards at various rarities that will no longer be as common or commonly seen in constructed, so you might want to try and pick those up while you have a chance. Whether I don't know if they're going to be reprinted or not, but there are some core ones that definitely need to be reprinted going forward. So have a look at the link. That'll give you a good starting point. So as far as staples list changes go, I have not removed any cards yet. I'm still on a version 1 of this list. I think that come rotation, when we get to set 7, I am going to go through it and maybe remove some that I think maybe don't cut it anymore. One should note that earlier sets had extremely powerful cards. You don't really have that same level. It's rare to have that power level in later sets. So I'll see. I'll have to go through the list and see which ones I think get knocked out. I don't think there are going to be that many, to be quite honest, but we're a few months out from that revision. So for Secrets of Power, all aspects get a little something, which is great because not all sets have strong cards in each aspect, but this one is pretty equal across the board. You may notice when I look at the additional staples, there are no plot or disclose cards. So the main issue I have with plot right now, it is good, but plot cards, of which there are not very many yet, in a deck that is 80 cards, you can't really rely on getting them out. Some are fairly powerful and will probably see inclusion down the road. but it is also very much leader and aspect dependent. So for now, I have left out all the plot cards. Disclose, of course, is also pretty tough, since you are generally playing a 3-aspect deck for the most part, plus, heroic or villainy. Disclosing with a deck that large in a singleton format is kind of difficult. Now, that changes, of course, if you are going monocolor, which is becoming more viable with the more cards that are out there, or just dual color. Perhaps down the road, I can see where Disclose becomes a little more impactful, but it is extremely dependent on the kinds of leaders and aspects that you're taking, along with your base. So for that reason, it's not necessarily a staple that fits into any deck of those particular aspects. I did notice, however, going through this, that my evaluation of the new Staples cards, it skews a little more towards rare and legendary cards this time around than previous sets had. I think that's just the nature of the set, perhaps. There aren't quite as many commons and uncommons that made the cut. So, for our neutral, our heroic, and our villainy, we've got one of each to add. So Clandestine Connections, it's a common. So attached unit gains on attack. You may pay 2 if you do deal 2 damage to a base. And it's a +1/+1. So it's not the best rate for an attachment. +1/+1's okay, the 2. But it's the importance here is considering the 2 as a resource sink in a later game. If you're not able to play the kind of cards that you want, sticking this onto something that's survivable, getting to use those 2 extra resources that you may not be otherwise able to spend is pretty good. And again, the important thing to say here is you may pay 2, and if you do, deal 2 damage to a base, not the base of the player that you are attacking at the time. So I think it's solid and can be worked into pretty much any deck. For heroic, another common, 4 cost, sure, Grassroots Resistance. 4 is not the best, but deal 3 damage to a unit, so it's a good little piece of removal, but heal 3 damage from your base. So I like any card that allows you to heal at any point during the game. Very important. And this one does double duty. So I think a worthy inclusion for any heroic. And Darth Nihilus, 7 cost, sure, which is sort of like getting up there in terms of what I like to include into Twin Suns decks. Now, mind you, I have noticed lately that games are going slightly longer than they used to, so I think 7+ resource cards are becoming a little more viable. You'll note there aren't really any above 7 in this list. I still am shy of putting any really heavy hitters in. There are some really good ones. The new Krennic, for example. We'll have to see how things shape up in the overall, hate to use this term necessarily because there really isn't one, but the meta of Twin Suns. As of yet, I still shy away from those really high-cost units. But 7 for Nihilus is a 6/6. When played, deal 3 damage to the unit with the least remaining hit points among other units. So again, in the multiplayer game, that's great. Someone's going to lose something. And if it's a non-vehicle unit, give an experience token to this unit. So that's when played and on attack, which is very solid. Force and Sith as traits, also pretty important going forward. We're getting close to being, like Force, of course, is very important. You can build Force-reliant Twin Suns decks already, but Sith as a trait going forward, I think is going to become more and more important as more and more Sith cards come out each set. So first we're going into some vigilance here. Eye of the Aldani. At the start of the next action phase, for each enemy unit, its controller must pay 1 resource or exhaust that unit. That is an absolute backbreaker for endgame. This is the kind of card that if I drew it in the first couple of hands, I'd be hanging on to it for the rest of the game. I contemplated making this one of the green haloed, absolute must-takes, but I think that depending on the board state, it may not be quite as effective, but it is great to have in your back pocket. I liken this card in a way to the Shieldgate card or the Timely Reinforcements, I believe. I think that's the one, the card that gives you or that turns every card, close the shield gate, and the other one is where you get X number of X-Wings and they all get Sentinel. But Shield Gate is a lot like this card, where it turns everything into a Sentinel and everything loses Sabotage. So this is a way, if you are in a leading position near the end of the game, this is the kind of the card that I would play. Absolutely would cripple your opponent's ability to actually affect the board whatsoever, especially if they have a lot of units out. Not so much, so it hurts their resource generation, which is always good, or use of resources, and makes them make some difficult choices. Retaliation, I mean, it's a common 5-cost defeat a unit that dealt damage to a base this phase. So again, it's the A base, which is important. So you could just basically, do some politicking, encourage your opponent to attack somebody else's base, saying, "Oh, look, he's got so much health. Go over there, do that," and basically, weaken your opponent's where your opponent got hit a bit, and then defeat that unit, especially if it's an extremely potent one, by playing Retaliation on the next turn. Yes, it's expensive, but you do get double benefit out of it. The Coronet, it's a 5-cost, 4/6, restore 1, but the important thing is that it gives each other friendly unit restore 1. We're starting to see more cards like this that don't have any qualifiers. It doesn't say give each other friendly Mandalorian unit restore 1. Give each other friendly space unit restore 1. No, each other friendly unit. Playing this one in late game, even if it isn't attacking itself and you've got a board ready to go, everything else gets restore 1. Amazing, amazing card. Captain Rex, a 6-cost 7/7. When played, this unit when this unit completes an attack, gives this unit and an enemy unit Sentinel for this phase. Great one to play early. Gives himself Sentinel. Gives Sentinel something in an arena that you don't care about, or make your opponent's lives, 2 of your opponent's lives, more difficult by giving another opponent who may be close to being on the chopping block, may be about to go out. You give them Sentinel, makes it harder to take them out. To close out the game, basically. So I really do like this card as well. For Vigilance and Villainy, Darth Scion, a 5-cost 5/5 for Sith. There's those important traits again. When played, give an experience token to this unit for each enemy unit that was defeated this phase. A lot of stuff's going to be dying by basically turn 4 if you get this guy out. But I, of course, would put him out late. So if a bunch of your stuff died, it's no sweat for you. He's going to come out pretty huge, especially if you wait until your opponent. You just have to have a little, get a little. I would love to have a die or something out to track that, or a little like check off to see, okay, or do a little hash counting on a piece of paper. But you kind of have to do it in your head because it gives too much away with a card like this. But he could come out absolutely huge when stuff starts dying off the board. And when defeated, if this unit had 7 or more power, return him to his owner's hand. That is really not that hard to do. So, extremely potent card. Again, maybe should have put him in that green category. I'll have to see when I get a chance to play with him. I don't currently have one. I've had weird openings in this set as far as legendaries go. lots of other sets of legendaries, but not the ones that I necessarily want. I think I may have to do some trading soon. Emergency powers. So this is basically Curious Flock, but far better. So choose a non-leader unit and pay a number of resources. For each resource paid this way, give an experience token to the chosen unit. It can be played at any point during the game. Again, it's a great sync for any leftover resources that you can't play in your turn. Yeah, just a terrific card, I think, going forward. Terrific on, like, say, Axe Woves, for example, and make him gigantic. Play this onto a Sentinel, make it gigantic. Yeah, play that at any point during the game. I think it's 100% worth putting in your deck. Moving on to command, we have the Crucible, a 6-cost 5/5 Jedi vehicle transport. When played, when defeated, give an experience token to each other friendly unit. So again, as I said before, we're starting to see these cards that have no qualifiers on them whatsoever. When played, when defeated, an experience token to each other friendly unit. Does not matter what kind of unit it is. It doesn't say it has to be Jedi or Republic or a droid or anything like that. It just does it. This to me right now is a draft all-star. The thing is an absolute backbreaker in when you're playing in any kind of go wide strategy. If you had a bunch of spies out and you drop a Crucible and they all get it, wow, fantastic. But the Crucible, an amazing card overall. I'm really surprised that this card exists the way it does at Uncommon, but I'm really glad to see these sort of effects that are not contingent or restricted. Mon Mothma, she's a 7-cost. She's a 5/8. Restore 3, very solid. Rebel official, important. When played, you may attack with any number of other units one at a time, even if those units are exhausted. They can't attack bases for these attacks. This is sort of the way to close out your games. So let's say you have a bunch of units. You just you know what, I'm just going to hit bases as much as possible. You're trying to close things out on that turn. You play Mon Mothma at the end. Then that allows all your currently surviving units to then attack and attack other units on the board to prevent any kind of crackback. I think it's a very interesting strategic piece. I think I feel like this was the kind of card that was designed with Twin Suns in mind, you know, and the subtitle here, Clinging to Hope. Yeah, that's really kind of what it is. It's a last chance effort to try and put yourself in a winning position. And then right next to it, we have another Mon Mothma card, Figure of Unity, attached to any unique unit. The attached unit gains, while this unit is ready, each other friendly unit gains Overwhelm, Raid 1, and Restore 1. Woof. And it's a 2/2. No wonder this card is a legendary. Again, I feel this is one of those cards that kind of feels like it was pushed specifically for Twin Suns. I don't know what kind of passive unit you necessarily would put this on, like unique unit. I don't know what point in the game you necessarily would, because they have to be ready and unique. And so you don't want to make, so they'd have to have something that doesn't hit very hard, but has a heavy, or like a really good health to it. So I'm thinking like a Chirrut, maybe, that sort of thing. Could be the Figure of Unity. Yeah, really good, I think, just on a Sentinel that you don't necessarily want to attack with. Going into aggression, Punishing One. So we've had different versions of the Punishing One, but I think this really is the best one of them. A 5-cost 3/5, so not the best rate. Underworld Vehicle Transport. This unit gains Raid 1 for each damaged enemy unit. When played on a take, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. So if this survives, you're basically going to get Raid 1 on it at least, and of course, during the game, you're going to have stuff damage on the board. And again, for each damaged enemy unit, of which there's going to be a lot of damage out there on the board. If you play this alongside things like the War Juggernaut and so on, the punishing one becomes, well, let's just say it, very punishing. Also, in another way too, you could use this to turn on grit on something, but you're really wanting to be hitting, and again, it's enemy unit, doesn't have to be the enemy unit of the target of your attack. Just amazing stuff. Saw Gerrera's U-Wing, a rebel vehicle fighter. It's a 6 cost 4/8, so I think Saw gets a good card here. He hasn't gotten too many of them, even though he's been around for a while. Saboteur, which is fine. When this unit completes an attack and survives, you may attack with another aggression unit. So, I mean, you are going to have to build towards aggression, but I think that action economy is extraordinarily important, and Saw Gerrera's U-Wing really kind of fits that bill. And it's interesting to note that it is aggression on its own. It is not tied to heroic nor to villainy, so it has a wide application of wide range of applications. I could see is played in the new Yularen, for example. You know, attack with it, Yularen, exhaust, you attack with another unit. Oh wow, so you could get 3 attack activations using this card and using Yularen in command. That is an excellent action economy for sure. Karis Nemec. So this is like probably regarded as one of the best cards in the set overall. A 2 cost 3/2 with Hidden, a rebel, which is not unimportant, but when defeated you may disclose. Now, remember what I said about disclose. I was wrong about not having at least one disclose, because he is so strong on his own that when defeated you may disclose aggression and heroic. So the chances are, if you're in aggression, you're going to have another aggression card. But he's still not terrible if you don't, because of his hidden ability right off the bat. And it will discourage your opponent necessarily from taking him out early, gambling on the fact that you may be able to disclose him. And basically you get a ready spy token immediately afterwards, so he puts on the pressure. So in an aggressive deck, he's great. So yes, I was incorrect saying there were no discloses. I do have this one disclosed, but I think it's just because he is overall the most powerful disclose effect in the game so far. And the first of our cards that has the green halo treatment is Aridna Price on the Road to Power. Now, she was a character who was in Rebels. She is sort of the second in command or advisor to Thrawn in that series, so it makes perfect sense with her ability. A 4 cost 4/4. When defeated, you may defeat another friendly unit. If you do, deal 4 damage to each enemy base. So, not only is that strong, because that affects the entire board when she goes down, and makes your opponents really have to think about what they're going to do if they want to take her out, because it's going to do so much damage. The threat is, because you are going to want to play her 100% with Thrawn, Thrawn can double that and do 8 damage to each enemy base. That is, in this format, that is absolutely devastating. You just have to make sure you have her, and you at least have one other friendly unit, which really is not a hard. She comes out on 4 as well, so it's pretty early in the game to get like a huge impact on the board itself. So, fantastic card. One of those that if you're playing in aggression, villainy, that is an absolute must-have. So she gets the goes in every deck green halo treatment here. Moving on to Cunning, we've got the Lightmaker, a 3/4 for 5, which is okay in Cunning Heroic, but it's Raid 4. I don't think we've ever seen a card like this before. Rebel, Vehicle, Capital Ship, all relevant. Raid 4 is incredible because you're going to want to throw this at people, and people don't want to have it thrown at them. When defeated, choose an arena, exhaust each enemy unit in that arena. An absolute blowout against decks that are going hard into a specific arena. In Lightmaker, if you're playing almost everything in space, like you're skewing towards that, and you just shut down the entirety of ground, wow. Incredibly powerful. So you're going to want to have this out, play it out. It's going to be hitting hard. It's going to make itself a huge target. And choosing that arena can absolutely disrupt your opponent's plan. And this is 100% a control card. I'm excited to see more control-y versions of Twin Suns deck, because there really aren't anything control-based. They're starting to be, and I'm thinking the next round of decks I actually make will probably be leveraging not only the Lightmaker, but going really hard into Cunning, Heroic, Control. So we'll see how those work out. Another card to get the Green Halo treatment is Cicatro or Cicatro Vizago. A 3-cost 3/4 Underworld, so fits into those decks. But on attack, reveal the top card of your deck. An opponent may pay 1 if they don't draw that card. This is the kind of card that I would play out and only attack as my last activation, and then choose the opponent that has played all the resources already. Because then you're guaranteed to be able to get card draw. And as we know, card draw is crucial in any card game. Having more and more options, and you can do this over and over and over again. So best case scenario, over the course of the game, you're going to get 2 cards drawn off of that because of that ability. So strong. And again, it's one of those cards where it's not your opponent that you are attacking, it's an opponent. The Ebon Hawk, a 3/3 for 3. On attack, you may disclose. So, okay. Again, I was wrong about the disclose statement. I'm not going to go back and fix it now. But this is our second one. And this one is extremely easy to play out. There's no way you're not playing Heroic or Villainy, and your hand's likely to be quite full of it in either case. On attack, you may disclose either Heroic or Villainy. If you disclose Heroic, this unit gets +2 for this attack. If you disclose Villainy, give the defender -4 for this attack. And there are ways, of course, to play this in this game now where you could possibly have both. And to note, it is just one cunning. So, again, yes, there's a disclose. So, my apologies. I did have 2 after all. Darth Traya, or Treya, a 3-cost 2/5. On attack, you may ready a non-unit leader. So powerful, and really comes out that early and has that much health. You're going to get a lot of value. Again, it's the action economy that really matters, and Darth Traya is really up there. Now we're going to have a look at a couple of decks that I put together from this set. Had a lot of fun with them. There's 2 of them. So Thrawn, Dedra, green. White is the color of death, or AKA miserable looking Imperials who stand around in white with their hands behind their back because they have an inflated sense of superiority. And Chancellor Palpatine, Mon Mothma in red. Who needs space wizards when you've got politicians? So when you look at the previous set with Legends of the Force, you had so many Jedi. Well, who needs Jedi when you've got politicians and spies? So let's first have a look at white is the color of death. So this is to leverage card draw plus, of course, the when defeated abilities for Thrawn. Since there are so many cards that actually do leverage off of Dedra's ability, off of Thrawn's ability, and a lot of those are card draw cards. So pretty much everything in here is going to be something that actually does have a when defeated. So even good old Admiral Moti in here, because we have so many villainy cards. You've got some of your sort of like old standbys. So Yularen, of course, you're playing in green. You're always going to have this for healing. let's have a look. Oh yeah, Dr. Krennic, of course, from JTL is going to be a must-have because of the number of when defeateds that are out there. Got some other ones that are like must includes, like HA-47. Imperial Occupier is great because you can double up on that. When he dies, get 2 spy tokens. Drawing 2 cards off of Night Sister Warrior just bumps up Dedra even more, especially on her unit side. And her action being a 1-cost resource exhaust, even throughout the game, makes your opponent have to make some difficult decisions. And again, card draw is always very good, and it's a fantastic resource sink. So everything in here, either, it works on Imperial. I've mixed in, to give some hitting power, I've mixed in some Inquisitors. So we've got the Grand Inquisitor and so on. The Occupier, because there's going to be a lot of damage out there. Of course, now, I mentioned this in the previous part of the video with the staples. Aridna is incredibly important. Probably one of the most crucial cards here so far. Morgan Elsbeth is an interesting choice. Again, she's from Twilight, but she comes into her own here. And again, it's almost as like she thematically was supposed to work with Thrawn. But defeating another friendly unit, which could be just a token like a spy or something, of which there are ways to generate it in here, if you do draw a card. Yeah, so let's say that you have a situation where you have the... where is he here? It's a newer card. The Night Sister Warrior. You defeat the Night Sister Warrior with Morgan. You trigger Admiral Thrawn. You've drawn 3 cards. And potentially 4 cards on your turn if you leverage Dedra as well. Just sort of like the rest of it is some great to have. It does top out at 9. I did put Krennic in here. I know you're probably likely not ever going to be able to play him. I mean, I do have, of course, the importance of having good old Super Laser Technician for some ramp, because ramp is always welcome if you don't really have anything else to do. And I believe I put resupply in here as well, so always good to get a jump if you can't do anything else. So you might actually be able to get to Krennic, but it's highly unlikely. But again, it is still card draw when he's attacked. So as I said, I don't, on my lists, I don't generally put anything above 7, but in certain cases, I think that these are worthy inclusions, as games tend to go a little longer. You don't want to be completely out of opportunities to play something just as big as Krennic can be, to basically stall out your opponents completely in the ground arena. So all these ships, like Confederate Courier, great way to fuel Aridna later on. Most of these all have when defeateds. Shuttle ST-149, which is such a great card. The Relief Runner, so much potential healing. The Chimera, of course, may use another when defeated ability on a friendly unit, so you get a lot of use. Imagine landing that after having kept Aridna on the board. So, yeah, lots of potential there. The Crucible, because it's just so good. Ruthless Raider. Shadowcaster, when a friendly unit is defeated, you may use all his when defeated abilities again. So there's a card that you don't really ever see played at all, but very potent in a deck when you have all these when defeated abilities. If that sticks on the board, you work at getting even more value out of those when defeated cards. The Interdictor, just to guard some space there. And yeah, so this one, of course, this is a total pipe dream. I put it in there because it does have, when played on attack, when defeated, create fighter tokens. I doubt you're ever going to get this one. This one's going to end up in the pile. But I mean, I have had the occasional game that goes to turn 10. I just think it's a really fun card to put in there, even though you're not likely to ever play it. Last Words, great card to leverage off the fact that stuff you want stuff to be defeated, and giving extra experience is great. Emperor's Legion here is a great way to fill your hand again. Return each unit in your discard pile is defeated this phase to your hand again. You know, even if you play this relatively early, man, that'd be great if you play this the turn that maybe Aridna dies, and then you can get her back in your hand. You can play her again. Aggressive Negotiations is a must-have in any card draw deck. You know, attack with a unit. For this attack, you get a +1 for each card in your hand, and that's what this deck is entirely about. It's just generating card draw. Some real classics in here. Nothing that's that big of a surprise. Again, Forced Surrender is near for drawing, and giving your opponents disadvantages. It is a late game card. Consolidation of Powers, interesting. Choose any number of friendly units. You may play a unit from your hand if its cost is less than or equal to the combined power of the chosen units for free, then defeat the chosen units. So that's a way to basically play out something really big, like, oh, you know, an Executor, by killing off, if you had a bunch of low-powered stuff, like 2 costs. Again, very unlikely you're ever going to be able to play it, but I think it's a fun inclusion for a deck like this when getting your cards defeated really matters. Only upgrades are Grim Valor, so when defeated you may exhaust a unit. It's a kind of a good late game card. Clone Cohorts, attach unit gains a raid 2, and when defeated create a Clone Trooper token. So again, you want to have those low power, low impact cards on the board for when you can leverage Aridna. And I say that, of course, based on the idea this is an 80 card deck. So, you know, you're not necessarily going to be finding her, but still, I think it works generally with the theme of the deck overall. Like a 2 cost, think of it this way, giving something raid 2 for 2 cost, and then a generating more than likely 2 Clone Troopers on its death is pretty solid in a deck like this. And Creditor's Claim, a newer card, attach unit gains when defeated. You may defeat a unit with 3 or less remaining hit points. So, kind of, again, solid because you are playing this in a deck with Thrawn. So, yeah, so that one's a lot of fun. I've played it a couple of times. The other deck, Who Needs Space Wizards when you've got Politicians? This is an all-aspect deck. I'm glad we're now at the point where, so you could do this with Hera, you could do this with Nalisay, but now you can do it, I think, in a much more fun, organic fashion, where you're able to leverage Palpatine's flip ability and play every aspect. So the base had to be in red because of... so blue is easy to do, but there aren't quite as many officials in red. But there are tons of officials in heroic blue. So I've got cards in here from, set 1. I've got Bale. Whoever thought Bale would actually ever do anything. But, in action, give an experience token to another friendly unit when he's not really doing anything else. Pretty solid. As you can see, there are an absolute ton. There's Bale again. Absolute ton of low-cost officials. And I think it's fantastic that Yularen, yet again, makes his way into any kind of deck. Officials. General Grievous, I think, is hilarious. Again, Separatist, official, hidden when this unit is attacked or returned to their owner's hand. I found when I've played this deck so far, it has not been very difficult to flip back and forth because there are just so many equal. It's pretty equal between the heroic and villainy. Major Partagaz, who's just there really to support other officials because he himself really doesn't do that much. He is actually an interesting target for Figure of Unity, right? Because he's just sort of gonna sit there, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't actually had that combination come up yet, so got both typhos in here just because they're not officials. However, but when played on attack, giving you a sentinel, he's just too powerful. Along with, of course, his new version, which is a sentinel and has some disclose, because there is a lot of commands, so you're not going to have much difficulty getting that done. Yeah, so many officials that you can play. There's Morgan again. There's a couple of Slime Wars. There's Rampart. Like this again. It's another disclose, but there are so many command cards in this that I think that's not really hard to pull off. Sassy Chancellor Valorum. This is a deck in which you have a lot of ability to play double aspect cards like this. Again, another disclose. He's got, of course, great built-in ramp. Hard to pull off, but as I said, there are a lot. I think about 70% of the deck is command, so it should not be that hard to do. Grandmoff here is interesting because I think this is the kind of card that you could also play Figure of Unity onto, because he doesn't really attack for very much, and you want him to survive to hold on to an enemy non-leader vehicle. You know, that can be actually totally backbreaking against some of the potent kind of ships that are out there. Interim Coalition. Where's the one? Okay, that's alright. When defeating me, defeating it costs 5 or less. It's actually quite potent. Renowned Dignitaries is amazing in this deck. So not only with the spies, but since almost every unit is an official, has Overwhelm as a 5/6, but when played, heal 2 damage from your base for each official unit. That is that's an end game closeout right there. You play him, everything, you heal like crazy. There is some Sandhill in here, which is interesting. You know, Exploit 3 is kind of a heavy cost, but on attack for each friendly unit that was defeated this phase, ready a friendly resource. So if your spies are dying, you're getting some good value out of him. Even if you want to exploit something like cheap to get him out relatively early, he's great being able to get your resources out. Again, haven't actually had him come out in a game so far, but he's tempting. Mon Mothma, I mentioned in the earlier part of the video, is a staple for sure, especially in a deck like this. She's absolutely crazy. Snoke, giving everything -2/-2, and an official. And of course, you know, Krennic goes in here too. Like, I know I said that he's not necessarily a staple, but he's an official. I can play him. He is... he's sort of a great closer, but, you know, very expensive. Ships, you know, like Coronet and Lightmaker, I mentioned earlier about how strong they can be. So they're in here. Chancellor's Shuttle, of course, is an auto-include because we are playing Chancellor Palpatine, because that's who he is, right? And it's on a when defeated if you control him. So it actually seems to be a card made to play with that leader, because when you play a villainy card, then he flips and he becomes Chancellor, as opposed to Darth Sidious, then defeated. So you know, a solid include. It's like that card was specifically made for that leader. You know, Starskiff is incredible restore. You're going to have officials, so why would you not have the Starskiff available to you? I think everything else here Get an experience token each up to 3 official units. Just, I mean, it makes a lot of sense in a deck like this. Contempt for Culture does 2 damage and creates a spy, so it's a good rate there. No one ever knew. So this one I've played in draft, and it is absolutely hilarious when you've gone wide and you have a bunch of officials or spies. For each official unit that you have, which of course you're going to have a lot, exhaust enemy unit, that can completely shut down an opponent's board, all of your opponent's boards, quite effectively for a turn, and it's only cost 2. I can see this card getting just better. The more cards that you can add, the even better officials that you can add. One thing I was going to note, you may notice that in this list there are a couple of officials that are missing. I don't remember his name, unfortunately. He's a dual aggression cost official with a very high disclose cost in aggression. And Cyril. Cyril would have been an auto-include, except that, as you can see, I don't have that many aggression cards. So that's one case where disclose is not going to work very well. So unfortunately, as much as I wanted to include them, I had to leave them out. Future iterations, if there are more aggressive officials, oh, for sure, they'll be included. He'll come in. Anything else really to note here? Encouraging leadership. Well, the whole idea is sort of going wide with these officials, so +1/+1 is pretty solid. Now there are 2 of them. It's just sort of one of those inclusions to get out something big and nasty as early as possible. Petition of the Senate is very funny to me because that's an old Twilight card that finally can see some use. So if you control 3 or more official units, draw 3 cards. I mean, yeah, I'll draw 3. I don't mind that at all. Ferris Uprising is great removal from this new set because, again, you're trying to go wide, and this can be a good rate as long as you have 3 units in a given arena, which is not going to be that hard to do. I Am the Senate. Okay, I more so included this one because it is so very funny to me. I'm the Senate, create 5 spy tokens. I mean, why not? That's potentially 10 damage on the board when attacking only, but it's still units that are out there that you can use on the subsequent turn to fuel any number of kinds of shenanigans that you want. It is late game. It's probably not all that fantastic, but I really think this had to be included in a deck which cares about officials. You and Reinforcement, one of the best cards in the game ever, and will continue to be. And of course, I'm in Heroic, so why wouldn't I play it? And Super Laser Blast, again, very high cost, but if you find yourself getting in trouble, this is the way to clear the board, since you can play it when he's on his Sidious side. Upgrades, I have included actually 2 plot cards here, mostly because I want to be able to keep, we know that we're not putting it on Palpatine, but if there's a really good official that we have, and it may not necessarily be Mon Mothma, we want to be able to keep them alive. So I've included these 2 because I think they're not spectacular, but they can keep the more important pieces on your board alive for longer. And if you don't play them, it's no big deal. They can just stay in your resource row. Because you're only really going to be able to play this once. Again, from your resources, you can play it out at any other time. An Inspiring Mentor, of course, is a no-brainer in a deck like this. Anything that you can put experience. This is not an experience token type deck exclusively, but I think that I pretty much try and put an Inspiring Mentor into every green heroic deck that I can. And Figure Unity, as I mentioned before, you have a lot of unique characters like Krennic, Snoke, Mothma, San, Turkin, Dedra, Mirage. There are just so very many. named ones, so why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't I? And they're not all necessarily going to be attacking anyway. Some, of course, do want to, but a lot perhaps don't. Yeah, so this one's been a lot of fun. I need to get more reps with it, but yeah, I'm just loving the way that Twin Suns is working out. And will be working out in the future, especially since partway through 2026, we'll be looking at precons. And I really look forward to pulling those apart when they're released, seeing how good they are in actuality, what new cards there are, if they are particular to Twin Suns as a format, and of course which ones you can swap in and out. Maybe like do a 10 in, 10 out thing like the Command Zone does for Magic's Commander format. So yeah, that's it for today. I will link to these two decks in the description, of course, to the Staples list as usual. And until next time, happy gaming. Thank you so much for watching Longship Gaming. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It will really help the channel to grow and improve. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when more Longship Gaming content goes live. Until next time, happy gaming.